Let us continue with our revision on hire purchase chapter, one of the easy chapter from accounting perspective. There are two things that you should understand. One is a calculation part of the chapter and the two is accounting part of the chapter. So whenever there is a sale of a good, it can be either a cash sale where the buyer makes a lump sum payment to the seller. Buyer can take a loan from the bank and then make a payment. It doesn't make a difference to us. There can be credit sale by the seller where seller collects money in installment over a long term, but obviously seller is going to charge certain interest, or seller can collect in lump sum over a short period. So there is an implicit interest here. Whenever you sell the goods on a credit basis and you just give a 1 month, 2 month credit period, remember there is a interest, but that interest is hidden into the selling price. So that is why I said it is a hidden interest or implicit interest. Hire purchase is this example where you collect the money in multiple installment. It could be either a hire purchase or installment. Legally there is a difference from a theory perspective. So whenever you sell on a hire purchase, interest is going to be charged. So seller, the total price that a seller corrects is known as a hire purchase price. It is cash price plus interest. Cash price is if payment is made lump sum as on today, that is cash sale. Cash sale किया तो क्या price लगेगा? वो cash price होता है. But since you are making a payment over a period of time, there will be interest charged to it. Cash price plus interest is a higher purchase price. The same higher purchase price can be collected in multiple installment. So something is collected as a cash down, something is multiple installment. So ये magic box का मतलब क्या है? ये सबके जो totals है वो same ही है. Total, let us say, if cash price is X and interest is Y, I can divide the cash price into X1, X2. That is cost price and profit. And interest is Y. Cost price plus profit, the price at which seller purchases plus his profit. So X plus Y is equal to X1 plus X2 plus Y. X1 plus X2 is bifurcation of cash price. एक होपलेस चीज हुआ करता था पुराने जमाने में, इसलिए मैंने सिर्फ लिखा है, आज की तारीख में कुछ भी रिलेवेंट नहीं है. So this total also is going to be equal to X plus Y. This higher purchase price is nothing but X plus Y, that is a cash price plus interest. So be careful about your calculations. But from the angle of the buyer, he never knows the cost price. So for him it is only cash price plus interest or cash down plus installment. The word cash price and the word cash down are totally different. Normally the tenure of a hire purchase agreement is going to be lesser than useful life of a asset. Useful life is going to be lesser than physical life of asset. Cash down is a down payment that buyer makes to the seller. Now before you understand accounting, you should learn calculation of interest. So sometimes hire purchase price is required to be calculated. There are two situations which give you different answer. Constant principal in every installment. I did not say amount of installment is constant. So here amount of installment keeps on varying. Amount of installment keeps on changing. It keeps on changing. It is not going to be constant. So you have to just repair the loan repayment schedule. You don't have to apply any great brain. आपको दिया रहेगा principal कितना, total amount, you know, total amount is to be paid in equal installment. तो आप क्या करोगे? कैश प्राइस जो भी है, लेट्स से कैश प्राइस इज 10 लाख रुपीज, कैश प्राइस इज 10 लाख, आउट ऑफ विच समथिंग इज अ कैश डाउन. तो रियल लेट्स से कैश डाउन इज 2 लाख रुपीज. तो रियल लोन इज, principal amount of loan is 8 lakh only. Principal amount of loan is 8 lakh and you say 8 lakh is to be paid over installments, 5 installments. So principal in each installment will be 1,60,000. But every installment will be principal plus interest. Interest will be in the ratio of इंटरेस्ट का रेशियो क्या रहेगा? If there are 5 installment, interest will be in the ratio of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If there are 5 installments. The other situation is a constant amount of installment including the interest. So if the amount of installment is going to remain constant, you have to first find the amount of installment by using present value annuity formula, because it becomes an annuity. So what is the present value annuity formula? Present value of annuity is equal to periodic payment, that is installment amount, into present value annuity factor. This annuity factor you can get on your calculator. 1 divided by 1 plus R is equal to M plus. These are separate buttons. Is equal to M plus, is equal to M plus. You should press N times. Then you get present value annuity factor. So present value of annuity, this amount is nothing but cash price less cash down. Cash down minus karna, because that is not part of loan, that is as good as a payment made today. So present value of annuity should be taken as cash price minus cash down. Then you take a periodic payment and annuity factor, rate of interest will be given. These both situations will give you different higher purchase price, different interest, and you make a loan repayment schedule in the format installment number oblique date, principal outstanding at the beginning, interest gross amount, installment, and principal at the end. The difference between the two is principal paid during the year. Principal paid. Difference is principal paid. So remember acronym PIGIP. So you should always be aware about time gap between two installment date. Time gap can be 6 months, can be year. Accordingly, you should adjust interest calculations. Sometimes examiner gives you higher purchase price and you are required to calculate a cash price. There are two methods. I will always prefer reverse working. So in reverse working, we set 0 as a principal outstanding at the end. We say cash down installment number 1, 2, 3, 4 ऐसे अलग अलग rows बनाओ और ये fifth installment था, fifth के end में 0 है, तो you should do reverse working. But remember, while doing reverse working, beware of the signs. क्यों? P plus I is equal to G, G minus I is equal to the ending P. तो आप reverse direction में जब आते हो, this principal plus installment will be the gross amount. And this interest, if the interest rate is 10%, you should remember, if it is 100 here, it will be 10 here, this will be 110. So if you know this amount, divide by 110 and multiply by 10 to get it. So if this amount is equal to 6 lakh divided by 110 into 10 करोगे तब जाके आपको interest आ जाएगा. तो उतना दिमाग please लगाना. So you can do reverse working or you can do DCF. DCF में क्या करोगे? We say cash price is a present value of future payments. Cash price is present value of future payments. So you can just find a cash price directly by preparing a table. What table you prepare? Table जो रहता है उसमें आता है year, cash flow, discounting factor at the rate of given interest rate and present value. आप ऐसा टेबल बनाओ और वो टेबल में जो आंसर आएगा वो आपका कैश प्राइस रहेगा. बट आपको लोन रीपेमेंट शेड्यूल वापस बनाना पड़ेगा इन अ फॉरवर्ड डायरेक्शन. Once you get the cash price through DCF method, you will have to make a loan repayment schedule in a forward direction. Here I am making a, यहाँ पर मैं why did I say prefer this? Because आपको लोन repayment schedule भी मिलता है, cash price भी मिलता है, दोनों एक stroke में मिल जाते हैं. The third arithmetic which you may be required, which is very rare in examination, only once the question has been asked, where examiner does not give you interest rate itself. If interest rate itself is not given, but the date of the payment and the cash flow is given, then you can find out implicit rate of interest, also known as internal rate of return, by doing trial and error. So you will have some inflow, some outflow. As a buyer, when you get the machine on hire purchase, imagine the cash price as inflow and the payments that you make as outflow. तो आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा? आपको टेबल बनाना पड़ेगा. ईयर कैश फ्लो, ईयर जीरो इनफ्लो होगा. किस चीज का इनफ्लो होगा? कैश प्राइस का इनफ्लो होगा. ईयर जीरो आउटफ्लो होगा. किस चीज का आउटफ्लो होगा? कैश डाउन का आउटफ्लो होगा। ईयर 1 2 3 4 क्या होगा रे, आपका इंस्टॉलमेंट आएगा INST अमाउंट, बट ये सब कुछ क्या रहेगा बच्चों, आउटफ्लो रहेगा। तो अगर आपको ये इनफ्लोज और आउटफ्लो पता है तो आप क्या कर सकते हो, मटका कर सकते हो। सो देयर इज समथिंग इनफ्लो, दिस इज अ इनफ्लो फॉर अ बायर, these are outflows. So you do trial and error by using multiple discount rates. तो आप assume करो 10%, 7%, whatever. You try to get one discount rate at which net present value is positive. How do you get NPV? NPV क्या करोगे, NPV के लिए आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा, you have to multiply by discounting factor at the rate of so and so present value. ऐसे आप करोगे, यहां पर जो टोटल आएगा पीवी कॉलम का, दैट टोटल इज एनपीवी, वो पॉजिटिव रह सकता है, नेगेटिव रह सकता है। ट्राई टू गेट वन डिस्काउंटिंग फैक्टर एट विच इट इज पॉजिटिव, अनदर डिस्काउंटिंग फैक्टर एट विच इट इज नेगेटिव, एंड देन डू द इंटरपोलेशन। सो व्हेन यू डू इंटरपोलेशन, इट इज अ डिस्काउंट रेट एट विच IRR is IRR is a discount rate at which NPV is equal to 0. So for a borrowing situation, in case, because this is borrowing, inflow is first and outflow is afterwards. When you increase the discount rate, NPV also increases. तो अगर आपने डिस्काउंट रेट यहाँ पे 7% लिया और आपका NPV 3000 आया पॉजिटिव, आप 7 से 10% पे जाओगे तो और बढ़ेगा। आपको पॉजिटिव NPV आ गया तो आपको निगेटिव चाहिए, तो 7 से 10 पे मत जाना, 7 से 4 पे आना। So you want one positive NPV, you want one negative NPV, so please apply brain accordingly. So it is a positive relationship between discount rate and NPV, और trial error करके आप क्या कर लेना, IRR find कर लेना, that IRR के हिसाब से you have to make a loan repayment schedule, and then the question of journal entry arises. So accounting in the books of seller. For a seller, I am going to treat it as a sell immediately when I sell the goods on hire purchase, even though ownership is not transferred. So the thumb rule is, the profit is a reward for selling the goods, and I should record this profit by applying substance over the form, because even though seller remains to be a legal owner, he is not the owner in substance. So profit should be recognized at the time of sell immediately, and interest should be recorded over the tenure of agreement. You should not club these two things together. Profit plus interest, इनका clubbing नहीं होना चाहिए. Profit should be recorded on upfront basis. Upfront मतलब at the time of sell. So ये profit का क्या होता है, upfront accounting बोलते हैं इसको, upfront, या इनको fancy language में IFRS में front loading बोलते हैं इसको. So upfront basis पे, immediate basis पे हम record करते हैं, interest को tenure पे spread करते हैं. तो basically, oh shit, इसने दोनों बैलेंस शीट कॉपी किया यार, विकास ने माती खाया, इधर P&L चाहिए. There should be trading account here. In the trading account of seller, there will be sales and there will be purchase of asset. This will be in the year of sales, and उसके P&L account में आएगा interest. Interest will come on the credit side over the tenure of agreement. Balance sheet of सेलर के बुक्स में जो बैलेंस शीट आएगा उसमें डेटर दिखेगा, बायर विल बी शोन एज अ डेटर. व्हाट एंट्री सेलर पासेस, सेल्स मेथड में बायर अकाउंट डेबिट टू सेल्स अकाउंट, इट इज सेल्स इज रिकॉर्डेड एट कैश प्राइस, एज इफ देयर इज अ कैश सेल. अगर कैश सेल होता था तो क्या प्राइस पे तुमने रिकॉर्ड किया होता था, वो प्राइस आ गया. देन यू रिसीव अ कैश डाउन, ऑब्वियसली व्हेन यू रिसीव अ पेमेंट इट हैज टू बी बैंक अकाउंट डेबिट टू अ बायर अकाउnt. Interest accrued up to the installment date, you show receivable from buyer to interest. If that, even if the your year ending date and the payment date does not match, you will have interest accrued but not due. So then you receive the installment, bank account debit to buyer account, you receive the installment, and then you transfer the sales to trading and interest to P&L. Similar another method exists which has the same effect, called the interest suspense method. Under the interest suspense method, the entire amount is shown receivable from buyer, but we credit sales only by cash price, and the total interest is credited to interest suspense account. Then bank account debit to buyer account, entry remains same, and we transfer the interest to P&L every year from interest suspense. Interest suspense is shown in the balance sheet, So net effect of both the methods is identical. Books of buyer, तो buyer के books में you will show asset at cash price and I will show depreciation on the asset at cash price. Interest will be treated as an expenditure over the tenure of a hire purchase agreement. So if you look at the P&L of buyer, इसके बैलेंस P&L में depreciation दिखेगा. Even though he is not a legal owner, we are following substance over form and interest will appear depending on how the loan repayment schedule is there. Balance sheet में उसके asset दिखेगा. He will show asset taken on lease. This is a finance lease and he will deduct accumulated depreciation. Whatever method he follows, he will follow, and whatever amount is payable to vendor, he will show it payable. Entries in his books: asset account debit to vendor account. Asset is shown initially at a cash price. Then we pay amount, creditor to bank के जैसा vendor to bank entry होता है. Then interest to vendor. Interest is booked as expenditure and shown payable. Then you make a payment to vendor, vendor to bank. You provide depreciation, depreciation to asset, and then you transfer to P&L. You can use interest suspense method also, where entire interest is shown payable at the beginning itself to the vendor, and then every year we transfer the balance from interest suspense account to interest account. Repossession. Question of repossession arises only when there is a hire purchase. It does not arise in case of installment sales. So whenever you have to account for repossession, you should arrive first at the three values. What is the outstanding amount on that date payable by the buyer to the seller? What is the value of repossessed goods, market value? Logically, examiner should give how they are going to arrive at the market value. If he does not give, we assume repossession value to be equal to outstanding amount, and book value is as per the books of buyer. This is not relevant for the books of seller. Book value is books of buyer only. So in the books of the buyer, difference between this book value and repossession value will be profit oblique loss, as the case may be. Please remember, while calculating a book value, the rate of depreciation considered can be different from rate of depreciation considered for calculating market value or repossession value or agreed value. So profit loss comes up only in the books of buyer, whereas a difference between repossession value and outstanding amount is in the books of buyer as well as books of seller. Contra effect hona chahiye. And then we do the accounting. So in repossession accounting, settlement, there is a settlement between the buyer and the seller. Amount payable, ये settlement amount ये है, उसका settlement होना चाहिए. So if repossession value is greater than amount outstanding, let's say repossession value 6 लाख है, machine जो repossess किया उसका, लेकिन amount outstanding 4 लाख था, so remaining 2 lakh is payable by the vendor. So vendor will pay to the buyer. And if repossession value is 6 lakh but amount outstanding was 9 lakh, buyer will have to pay difference to the vendor. So this is settlement accounting. So what entry do we pass? The simple entry that we pass is vendor account debit to asset account. So it is as good as sell of a asset. To remember entire repossession accounting, मैंने कहीं तो उसका hint दिया था. Repossession accounting is it is as good as a sell of a asset. See यहाँ पे देखो, repossession is buyer selling the asset to the vendor. When you have to look at the books of the buyer, it is as good as buyer selling the asset to vendor. And if you are looking from the books of the vendor, it is as good as vendor buying the goods. I did not say asset. Vendor के लिए मैं goods बोलता हूँ क्योंकि उसके लिए वो current asset है, but buyer के लिए वो asset है. So from the point of view of the buyer, repossession is, for a buyer, repossession is a sell of asset. Repossession is a sell of a non-current asset. For a seller, repossession is nothing but purchase of goods. It is as good as purchase of goods. So ये अगर आपके दिमाग में एक बार फिट हो गया तो अकाउंटिंग बहुत आसान है. Profit loss is in the books of buyer. ये जो है ना, ये दोनों के बुक्स में रहता है. Settlement is in the books of the vendor as well as the books of buyer. So profit loss is the difference between repossession value, book value. If repossession value, which is nothing but a sell value, is higher than the book value, you have profit. If it is lower than the book value, you have loss. Loss है तो P&L को डेबिट करो. Journal entries are on the next page. क्या खतरनाक entries लिखे मैंने यहाँ पे, एक टेबल में सब कुछ खत्म. Repossession value as agreed or as assumed due to the lack of information. If nothing is given about repossession value, we assume repossession value is equal to outstanding amount. I did not say repossession value is equal to book value. It is equal to outstanding amount. So books of vendor. Vendor के लिए क्या है, ये उसने goods वापस खरीद लिए. So repossessed goods, राहुल गांधी नहीं है, repossessed goods account debit to buyer account. It's a purchase of goods. Purchase account debit to vendor account और creditor account. तो purchase के जगह पे मैंने क्या लिखा, goods account debit to buyer account. And then settlement करना है तो पैसा आएगा उसको या पैसा जाएगा, bank account debit to buyer if he receives the money. If he has to pay, buyer account debit to bank account. Repairs उसने किया, repossessed goods to bank. Sell किए वापस ये goods, bank account debit और a new buyer account debit to repossessed goods. और उसका profit loss, P&L account debit to repossessed goods. If there is a loss, repossessed goods to P&L. If there is a profit, this is a profit, this is loss. Profit loss on repossession, this is not applicable in the books of vendor. Look at the books of buyer. Buyer के books से क्या सोचना है? It is a sell of asset. तो पहले उसने asset बेचा. Asset बेचा मतलब किसको बेचा? जिसको बेचा उसका नाम receivable करो. Vendor account debit to asset account. Vendor account debit to asset. It is books of buyer. Settlement हो गया. Payment है तो vendor to bank. Receipt है तो bank to vendor. Repair expenses, question doesn't arise. Sale of repossessed goods, question doesn't arise. Transfer of repossessed goods balance, question doesn't arise. Profit loss on repossession, asset to P&L if there is a profit, if there is a loss, ये entry आएगा. But remember, in the books of the buyer, you should always know books of buyer. एक proof हमेशा आपने याद रखना चाहिए या concept के लिए समझना चाहिए. Books of buyer, payment made must be equal to expenses booked. Whatever payment buyer has made till the time of repossession, that payment made comprises of cash down plus installments and settlement amount. Settlement amount में receivable हो सकता है या payable हो सकता है, as the case may be. तो ये जो payments है, this could be payment or receipt. Settlement amount paid or received, ये consider करो. So these three amounts must be equal to expenses booked. क्या क्या expense book करता है वो? He books a depreciation, he books interest in his books, and he books profit or loss on repossession. Profit oblique loss on repossession. इनका जो टोटल है वो हमेशा मैच होना ही चाहिए. सो कैश डाउन को अगर मैं ए बोलता हूं, ये इंस्टॉलमेंट को बी बोलता हूं और ये सेटलमेंट को सी बोलता हूं और ये डेप्रिसिएशन को मैं पी बोलता हूं, इंटरेस्ट को क्यू बोलता हूं और ये प्रॉफिट लॉस को आर बोलता हूं, देन व्हाट मस्ट हैपन इज इन दिस पिंकी ए प्लस बी प्लस माइनस सी, सी माइनस भी हो सकता है, मस्ट बी इक्वल टू पी प्लस क्यू प्लस माइनस आर. बिकॉज वो प्रॉफिट हो सकता है, प्रॉफिट है तो क्या करोगे, माइनस करोगे, लॉस है तो ऐड करोगे. प्रॉफिट ये खतरनाक चीज है, ये प्रूफ ऑफ बुक्स ऑफ बायर है. बुक्स ऑफ बायर में आपने जो भी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व किया उसको आप ये प्रूफ ट्राई करके देखना, आपको मिल जाएगा. सो रिपोजिशन कैन बी ईदर parties have agreed upon repossession value or parties have not agreed upon repossession value. This is illogical. If they do not agree on repossession value, what is assumption? Our assumption is repossession value is equal to outstanding amount. If parties have agreed upon repossession value, read rate of depreciation carefully. Rate of depreciation for repossession value carefully, and the method also. Read rate of depreciation for repossession value carefully and method also, because the method may be different. SLM, for your book value you may have SLM, but for repossession value you may have WDV. For your book value rate may be 10% per annum SLM, for purpose of repossession value rate may be 20% per annum WDV. It can be anything to anything. It can be either full repossession or it can be partial repossession. You should read the question as to understand whether it is a full or partial repossession. This is a theory difference. Whether what is hire purchase and installment, general knowledge के लिए लिखा है. That's it. So we are done down under 24 minutes. Bye bye.